All right. Hey guys, I wanted to make a short video just to reinforce some of the basic trig graphing rules because it goes from really easy to pretty tough very quickly. So I want to do two examples with you. The first one, let's just do something simple where we do like 2 and then sine of, let's make it 4x, like that. Okay. What I want you to consider is I want you to think of a basic sine curve. So you have to know what a basic sine curve looks like. A basic sine curve starts at 0, ends at 0, hits 0 dead center, and then it hits top halfway between these two, hits the bottom halfway between those two. That's where we come up with this. Typically that's 0 and that's 2 pi. As we go changing the values for the amplitude and frequency, it's going to affect how that graph looks. So for this first example, the amplitude is 2, and then the frequency is 4. Right? So what that means is that you have to consider the scaling based on what your frequency is. So I'm actually going to quick calculate what's the period. So the period would be 2 pi over the b value of 4, and it comes out to be pi over 2. What that means is I should see one cycle between 0 and pi over 2. So when you go to set up and sketch this thing, you could make this pi over 2 and kind of spread it out. And you're going to want a tick at the halfway point and then at the quarter points, if you will. So halfway and so on. All right. Do you have to label those? No, not necessarily. So don't overthink it too much. Okay. There is no shift up or down, so I don't have to worry about that. What I do have to worry about is the amplitude goes up to 2. So I'm going to say that it goes up 2 and it goes down 2. Think of your basic sine curve. Starts at 0, ends at pi over 2 at 0, hits 0 dead center. Then it's going to go up to 2, because that's my amplitude, halfway between, and down to -2, halfway between those. If I had something along the lines of, let's say, y equals -2 sine of 4x, then I would have the same scaling. The only difference here is that the negative would mean that I would reflect it over the x-axis. So I would start, finish, dead center, same spots, but then it would go down first, and then here it would go up. So it would just be flipped over. Looks kind of fun when you put them together. All right, let's take that example and extend it one thing further. So I'm going to slide, trying not to knock stuff off my table here. If I take that same example, and now I say, let's make it 2 sine of 4x, but now let's make it plus 3. All right, the plus 3, that's going to shift it up 3 units. So when you go to lay this thing out, give yourself that space. If you have graph paper laying around, that helps. Otherwise, if you can print out the homework, great, whatever works for you. If not, then you're sketching it just like I am on a note paper, okay? So keep in mind your scaling. So on the x-axis, I'm still going from 0 to pi over 2, right? So 0, put pi over 2 over here. Excuse me, put a tick mark at the halfway point, 2 more tick marks halfway in between each of those, all right? And then because my wrap line is at y equals 3, that's where I'm going to put that dotted line here. All right. So when I say that sine starts at 0, ends at 0, hits dead center at 0, what I really mean is it does that on the wrap line. So in this case, it would start at 3. It ends at pi over 2 at 3, and dead center, it's going to hit that midline of 3. Now my amplitude of 2 doesn't mean that it goes up to 2. It goes 2 above the midline. So 2 above the midline, excuse me, would be up at 5. So at the halfway point, I'm going to come up to 5. 2 below the midline would bring me down to 1. So halfway between these 2 points, that's going to bring me down to 1. And then I can connect the dots. So that is my amplitude right there of 2. I hope this clarifies a couple of things. The last detail is when we do have those phase shifts in there, That does make it a little bit trickier. If I added a phase shift to this, you could always draw this part first and then shift all the points over, but we are really not going to stress too much about that.